Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I got another deck profile for you today, another post-September 2018 ban list. This is my Darkest Diabolos deck. It's not the same as the Fang of Critias engine that I was running before. In fact, I decided to pick apart that deck, rebuild it, and try something a little new. No, don't worry, I'm not quitting on Fang of Critias. It's still one of my favorite engines of the Lair of Darkness deck. I just kind of wanted to try something new, add some new strategies, and yeah, basically, try to make this deck a little bit more aggressive rather on the defensive like my Fang of Critias was, because that one was more of a defensive deck. So this one's kind of more on the offense. So anyway, let's not keep you guys waiting and get started. Okay, so starting off with this deck, you want to run 3 copies of Darkest Diabolos, Lord of the Lair. You can get away with 2 copies if you want. If you want to make room for something else, then yeah, 2 or 3. I just like 3 a little bit better, because to me, I want to be able to see this guy as quickly as I possibly can. He helps me end games a lot faster, and the fact that he's a 3000k beat stick, he's really good. Once per turn, you can contribute 1 monster, and you can have your opponent send 1 card from his hand to either the top or his bottom of the deck. It's his choice on which card he wants to send. But it's also a good way to just to pick apart boards, because with Lair of Darkness lets you tribute your opponent's monsters as well. Also, this monster cannot be tributed or targeted, so he's safe from kaijus, and your opponent cannot target him with effects, so that's actually really good. So next up we have 3 copies of Lilith, Lady of Lament. Literally the best card in the entire deck. Her ability is a quick effect, does not target. You contribute 1 dark monster. Look into your deck, pick out 3 normal traps, and they don't have to be a different name, so they get literally 3 of the same trap cards. Your opponent will pick 1 at random, and you get to set it on the board. So that card, to this effect, cannot be ashed. And also, yeah, it's just like really good because, again, Lair of Darkness, tribute your opponent's monsters too, and also just helps, get all your back rows a lot faster, because this is a back row heavy deck, so yeah. And our Lair of Darkness Searcher is Arima, the Wicked Warden. He's also good because he also has a pretty cool tributing effect on the field. You could tribute 1 dark monster, draw 1 card, or if you tribute a dark monster other than this card, you could add any dark monster with 2,000 or more defense, and this is where you normally search out your Darkest Diabolos, and you get to instantly summon him to the field, because it's a trigger effect. It's not a chain effect. So great card. All right. So continuing on, we run 2 copies of Armageddonite. This is one of our Foolish Burial cards, basically because you can it synergizes really well with Destrudo. You can send out Darkest Diabolos as well. Like if you have a card like Monster Gate in hand, you tribute off your Armageddonite, you could instantly trigger off Darkest Diabolos after it resolves and all that good stuff. But yeah, you mainly just use it for Destrudo, that way you can get your Black Rose Dragon out and start clearing out the boards, which comes to our next card, Destrudo. Amazing card. Just pay half your life points whether this card is in your hand or in your graveyard. Special summon it by targeting 1 level 6 or lower monster, and you reduce this monster's level by that equal to that level. So yeah, becomes level 3 if you target Armageddonite, and that's good enough to make it into a Black Rose Dragon. And also it goes to the bottom of the deck once it leaves the field. Next up we get Tour Guide from the Underworld. Really good just because it special summons any level 3 fiend type monster like Skarm, Lilith. Can get you into our rank 3 play. It can also get into a Link 2 play, like a free Link 2, like Wee Witch's Apprentice. And yeah. And, of course, next up is Skarm. I took off Blackwing Steam the Cloak. Actually, I still have him in the deck. He's actually on the side, but I decided not to run it in the main deck anymore. Just because, his restriction was a little too heavy. But when it comes to, the time rules, every now and then you want to switch out your Blackwing Steam the Cloak with Destrudo. We're running 6 hand traps in this deck. We have 2 copies of Ghost Ogre, 2 Drolls, and 2 DD Crow. I felt like these 2 synergize so well together, especially against Nightmares, because you Ogre the Nightmare card you want to get rid of, and then you Droll, that way your opponent can't get any more card advantage. And DD Crow is surprisingly busted, especially for this especially for this meta now, because Sky Strikers, you want to get rid of their 1 Hornet drones. You want to get rid of cards like if Monster Reborn were to target a monster that it literally took you so much just to get rid of, your opponent has to summon it again, DD Crow it. So yeah, DD Crow is pretty much good against everything. So yeah. I'm not running Ash for this deck because Ash is a great card. I like it, but I feel like Ogre and Joel were the better options, and DD Crow as well. So yeah. So I felt like these were the better options, and yeah, it just helps me. And plus, Ogre clears out boards and floodgates, so that's why I decided to run it this way. Moving on to the spells, we're having 3 copies of Lair standard. You got to run it at 3 because, you know, you want to turn everything to dark, and plus you need to be able to tribute your opponent's monsters while this card is on the field. I decided to go ahead and run 2 terraformings. I mean, it's semi-limited anyway, but I figure, you know, I need to have more ways to get Lair out faster, so terraforming is good. You could also run Metaverse in place of this too. Like, I would recommend 2 Metaverse at least if you don't want to run terraforming, but one or the other, you know, they do the exact same thing regardless. 2 copies of Allure Darkness. I used to run it at 3, but decided to bump it down to 2 just because, like, Allure Darkness can kind of hurt you a little bit half the time, but not always. If you don't like Allure Darkness, trade-in is a good alternative, but just keep in mind your only trade-in target is going to be Darkest Diabolos. So yeah, that's one of the biggest weaknesses with that. But yeah, Allure Darkness I feel like is okay. I mean, 2 should be more than enough, honestly. Moving on to the singles, we got 1 Monster Gate. Basically our reasoning of this card, and you could tribute one of your opponent's monsters as well, as long as you have that Lair out. And you just excavate your deck until you can find a monster that can be normal summoned. And just about every monster in this deck can be normal summoned. 1 Foolish Burial, standard. And of course, Monster Reborn. Gotta have it. So that's it for the spells. For our traps, we're running 3 copies of Torrential Tributes. You want to be able to clear out your opponent's boards. As soon as your opponent gets that Firewall Dragon out, wipe it out. Or cards like Borreload Dragon, Boral Sword Dragon, you know. You don't want cards that can really become, that are considered game enders, because, you know, that's really going to hurt you, so you got to get rid of them as quickly as possible. And the fact that Torrential Tribute's at 3, that's just saying a lot right there. 2 copies of Back to the Front. I was trying to running it at 3, but I found it slightly cloggy at 3, because half the time, like, you know, you only open up with spells and traps, and you kind of don't want to do that, so I bumped it down to 2, and it helps out a lot. 2 Full Force Virus, which is good against almost every deck. Like Goki, Gokis literally have 0 defense points. Like, I've noticed that, and it's a good way to, you know, get rid of those cards and keep your opponent from using them for a while. And of course, you're running 1 Eradicator, which is really strong against Altergeist and Sky Strikers. Like, for Altergeist, you want to call traps. With Sky Strikers, you want to call spells. And with Trickstars, you kind of want to take a gamble. If anything, I say go for the traps, because, you know, like, pure Trickstars now are going to be running mainly trap cards a lot, like the Torrential Tributes themselves or their Trickstar Reincarnations, so you want to get rid of those. So yeah. And to go with the virus cards, I'm running 2 copies of Mind Crutch, because, you know, the fact that these virus cards let you look at your opponent's hand, you can combo it off with Mind Crush, call a card that you see in their hand, and then just destroy it. So, you know, yeah, it's a great card to run, and also, like, you just kind of want to time Mind Crush as best as you can. All right, so that's it for the main deck. Let's go ahead and go into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, I'm running 2 copies of Wee Witch's Apprentice. This card is really good. It's generic in general because it just requires 2 dark monsters. Even Dark Magicians can use this, but yeah, it just gives your dark monsters a 500 attack power boost. It weakens your opponent's light attribute monsters by 400 points, I'm sorry. Of course, not every deck's going to be running light attribute, but yeah. But it's also good because if it gets destroyed, you get to add 1 dark monster from your grave back to your hand. And half the time we just use it for more link material, you know. Which comes to our next monster. Link Spider. Yeah. Come on. You saw this coming. You're going to be producing tokens a lot, so yeah. And I forgot to mention about Lair of Darkness. At the end of every turn, depending on however many monsters you attributed, whoever player's turn it was, you summon those tokens to that player's board. So, and it's mandatory. You can't forget about that. So, like, you always have to produce tokens. So, moving on, we got 2 copies of Curious, the Lightsworn Dominion. I felt like this card really synergizes well with this deck because it requires 3 monsters with the same attribute but different types, and you will be running different types. So not every monster is going to be Dragon, not every monster is going to be Fiend. You also have a Warrior. So yeah, Curious is surprisingly easy in this deck. So, and it just helps you, you know, get Diabolos to the grave faster, or even Destrudo, mill the top 3 cards of your deck, and yeah, it just synergizes so awfully well. So I really like it. Next up comes to our next standard choice, Decode Talker. His effect tributes, so like if your opponent targets a card you could, or targets a monster you control, I believe, or any cards that you control, you could attribute one monster this card points to, negate, and destroy it. So yeah. For the Link 4s, we're running Saryuja Skuldred. I mean, come on, everyone saw this one coming too. And then Topologic Bomber Dragon, which I feel like is the best Link 4 choice for this deck, because since you do special summon tokens a lot, and just to save time, I figured if you summon during your summon tokens whenever during your opponent's turn, you get to wipe out his entire main monster zone. So that way, you know, on your next turn, you could pretty much have him left wide open. So that's why I felt like Topologic Bomber Dragon was definitely a must for this deck. For the two Synchros, we're running one Black Rose Dragon, one Beals. They're both really easy to summon with Destrudo, and yeah, and with Destrudo you can even target one of your level 3 Torment tokens, make it a level 4, and then Synchro summon with Armageddon Knight, and yeah, you pretty much got a Beals right there. We got a few rank 8s here. We got Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon, which is one of my favorite rank 8 monsters of all time. Run it in Blue Eyes as well. But at the start of your battle phase, you can detach one Xyz material, negate all other cards on the field, or all face-up cards on the field except itself, have their effects negated, and monsters are reverted back to their original attack strength. This card can attack twice, and also, if your opponent activates a card effect at any given point, this card gains 1,000 attack points. So, really strong card. Next up, we got Heretic Sun Dragon, which is really great because this card tributes. So you can detach one Xyz material, tribute any number of monsters from your hand, or on your side of the field, at least one, then destroy any number in an equal number of cards on the field. So just note that this does not target. So like you can pop cards like from anywhere. So it's a good way, you know, just to clear up boards and also clear a back row. So like, man, this card's like kind of like a heavy storm in its own right. Another card that's really strong against Sky Strikers, it's number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. Can negate spells and also steal spells and make them Xyz material. So that's kind of really powerful right there. So yeah, it's just really strong. And honestly, like Sky Strikers really have a hard out to this card. It's like, it's just, they can't really get around it that easily. And also you can revert to attack. So like you can detach one Xyz material, have a monster change its attack target to hit. So it's, yeah. And the fact that it's 3,000 attack, that's really strong. For the final cards, we have Exciton Knight. Now that it's unbanned, I felt like this was actually a pretty good card choice to run, because it clears boards, clears hands, or not, well actually no, just clears boards, but yeah, as long as your opponent has more cards in his hand or on the field than you do, so that's really good. Another good card that I thought was really good for like time rules is this one, Granosaurus, and this is what we use for our rank 3 play. Just requires 2 level 3 monsters. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can detach one Xyz material and inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. So it's a good way, like if you're in your battle phase and you call time and you've already declared an attack and you've successfully done it, detach the one Xyz material, inflict 1,000 points of damage, and if your points are higher, then you're pretty much set and just in your battle phase, and that's it. You know, you pretty much won the game. So Granosaurus is definitely a good card, and of course, once we use them up, we just go into our last Xyz monster, which is Downerd Magician. I figured why not, since, you know, during your main phase you can summon it, main phase 2, I'm sorry, and you can use any rank 3 or below monster as Xyz material to summon this card. So I figured, okay, it gets stronger for every Xyz monster, and plus it can do piercing damage, so why not? Downerd Magician, not a bad choice. Alright, so the side deck, we have... Oops, sorry, I bumped the camera just a little bit. Blackwing Sting the Cloak, which is another good card in place of Destrudo. I mean, because, you know, you can tribute one monster on the field, special summon it, and then when it leaves the field, you can produce a Sting token. So it helps you get into some pretty good link plays as well, but I decided to take it off the main deck because it was slightly slow, but, I mean, not a bad card. Again, like, you know, when it comes to Destrudo, you kind of want to be careful, like, not rely on them too heavily, because, you know, time rules really suck. I really don't like those. Another good card is Duke Shade, the Sinister Shadow Lord, just because, you know, it's basically your kaiju of the deck. So, yeah. The only 2 spells I have on the side are Econs, because this card's just stupidly hilarious. You get to tribute if Lair's on the field, you basically get to tribute one of your opponent's monsters to take control of one of their monsters. So yeah, it's really dumb, but it's so funny at the same time, so I really like it. And this card just really does just pick parts your opponent's field a little bit faster. So like if you chose not to use Lilith's effect yet, play Econ, take control of your opponent's monster, and then use Lilith's effect to tribute that monster you just took control of. So you basically wiped out 2 of their monsters for free. Moving on to the traps, we have 2 copies of Bottomless Trap Hole. I figured it was alright. I mean, because like, you know, with pendulums and all that stuff, I figured it was a good matchup. You know, you get to destroy and banish them. So, and pendulum cards don't go to the graveyard anyway, so it's a good way to get rid of those cards. Another card to deal with Floodgates, Heavy Storm Duster. Like, the one Floodgate that hurts this deck is actually Rivalry of the Warlords, because not all my deck is Fiend. So that's why it's like, I also have Dragons, I have Warriors, and I need them out. So, Heavy Storm Duster, definitely a good way to get rid of cards like Goes and Match. And now that Nightmare Goblin is banned, I felt like this card was actually a really good choice, because, you know, now you can target extra link boards. Magic Cylinder. I would have ran it last format, but the thing is, you know, Goblin was a thing, and you couldn't target. So Magic Cylinder, I thought, was just a really good and funny choice at the same time, considering that now, even though you might not be able to destroy your opponent's boards, you know, you can at least punish him back by, you know, overextending, and now you just aim directly to his life points, you know. So yeah, Magic Cylinder, a great choice. And another good choice that really works well against the extra link, Wall of Disruption. I wanted to do Storming Mirror Force, but I felt like that this one was a much funnier choice, because with this card out, whenever your opponent's monster declares an attack, all attack position monsters lose 800 attack points for each monster they control. So, like, let's say he controlled, I don't know, a full board of 5 monsters, along with the extra link ones, or better yet, 7 monsters. So that would technically be 7 monsters if he could pull that off. All his monsters with attack points would just become 0. Yeah, they can't be destroyed in battle, they can't be destroyed by card effects, but what good is that if they can't do any lick of damage to you? You could just keep attacking them over and over, even if they use the Trigate ability to banish. It doesn't do anything. They just got to get rid of all their cards now. So yeah, Wall of Disruption I thought was an excellent choice. I actually tested this out on YGO Pro. A lot of guys who were doing extra linking there got salty over the comments. I chose not to record those replays just because, you know, I didn't want to feel like I was putting them down or anything. But, you know, that's just me being funny. Well, anyway, that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys again next time.